If Wizards of the Coast wants a real path to success, they only have to do a few small things. Sometimes you have to wonder, is Wizards of the Coast doing everything it can to maximize its own success as a company? Welcome back, everyone. MTG Moxman here. Thanks again for hanging out with me on my channel today. When I look at what the company's been doing the last couple of years, and when we look at the Lord of the Rings set in particular, it has its own natural hype, its own build-up, if you will, of players who are excited for the product after seeing some of the cards. But could they do a better job? Could they have made sure and ensured a higher success rate? Because if you look at the company as a whole, the player pool is definitely dwindling for a game like Magic the Gathering, and they haven't done a lot to broaden the player base. All they've been doing lately is trying to maximize the collectability of the game by giving us serialized cards, hard to get versions of cards, alternate cards like Secret Lair to bring in the dollars. But are they doing enough to broaden the game with good mechanics, great gameplay, and sturdy cardboard that doesn't curl? When I looked at Lord of the Rings as a set, I was super excited and stoked to see a Balrog come to life, to see it on paper. Just like I got excited for Lord of the Rings, I also was excited for things like Dungeons and Dragons, Adventures in Forgotten Realms, and yes, even sets like Commander Legends Battle for Baldur's Gate. Because it's still in the D&D world, I couldn't help but get excited for these cards. And sometimes, actually in a lot of cases, the cards left me flat. They left me loving the flavor, but feeling the power level was so underwhelming that I didn't know how the cards could actually be utilized in Commander or playing with friends in a semi-friendly competitive format, other than leaving those cards as standalone sets and playing with them in a solitary fashion. So now they move forward and gave us a set like Lord of the Rings. The marketing has been genius. They gave us the One Ring. We all know this. They gave us serialized rings of power to go hunting for, which of course builds on the collectability of this game. It makes you want to go looking for the card. I understand that. The FOMO factor, it's great. But how about the playability of the cards? How about the price point at which they marked these cards for value terms? Who wants to buy it? How many are they going to buy, and how do we get mass appeal out to as many people as possible? What's going to be the success rate of this product going forward? In dollar cents, it's going to look amazing on paper. But are these cards going to go out to enough players that it broadens your player base and builds you a greater pool of players for the next set? Does it draw more income in for the long term? When you look at the actual construction of the set, how are these game mechanics going to directly relate to things like Commander for a longer period than just a few weeks? Who is going to desire these a year from now, 2 years from now? Is Wizards of the Coast, are they really looking at this in the longer term scheme and scope of the game? I don't believe they are. I believe they are thinking in very short terms for when sets actually interact with other sets. When you look at the construction of the set, look at how the cards are built. The One Ring, I don't know how you guys felt. When I saw it on the Twitch stream, it looked like it was curling. I'm pretty sure that thing was curling. That's how it looked to me. I comment with people. They all felt the same way. You guys can comment. Maybe that wasn't the actual One Ring. Maybe they'll have a different version inside the box. But that's how it looked to most people I have conversed with. Now let's jump back to the Balrog here for a second. I want to share with you this card, and I want to talk about it. First, I'm going to start off with the Balrog that I think is the worst, okay? This is the 5 casting cost 7/7, the Balrog, Flame of Udun. Now, I probably pronounced that wrong, I don't care. Legendary creature, avatar demon, and it's a rare. It has trample, which is great. It should have trample. This thing's a giant beast that would like maul over things. We all know, if you've been on my channel for a while, I hated the artwork. It seemed way too cartoonish for me. Not enough detail. Definitely doesn't look awe-inspiring. Now, as 1 red, 1 black, 3 generic for a 7/7, that power level definitely fits well with me. I have no problem for a 2-color card costing this. It looks good. When a legendary creature an opponent controls dies, put the Balrog, Flame of Udun, on the bottom of its owner's library. So basically, if somebody blocks it and that creature dies, the Balrog goes to the bottom of your library. I know there's probably uses if you build around this. It just bothers me as a card. everything about it really got to me, where I think Wizards of the Coast, if they want a higher success rate, they've got to look at the intellectual property IPs that they control or have access to, and make sure that those key cards and characters really do find a proper home, a proper power level for future use, to draw value from that card in the future, to be able to use it later on as an IP property. And you don't want to outstrip the power level, but you want to make it utilized so players actually play with it and don't just gloss over it for a moment. Now, the next Balrog, this is like the middle ground Balrog. We're getting better, okay? Now, this is the Balrog Durin's Bane, okay? 1 red, 1 black, 5 other. This is a 7 casting cost, 7/5, but it does have some cool features to it. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each permanent sacrifice this turn. That gives it a little bit of flexibility. We all know with food tokens and treasures and clues, there's lots of ways of sacrificing things. You know, you've just got to make sure you have a way of actually sacrificing them, but you can make this guy cost less. And he does have haste, but not trample and haste. Interesting, right? Now it says, the Balrog Durin's Bane cannot be blocked except by legendary creatures. I like that. You got to have a Gandalf-style character to block him. And it says, when the Balrog dies, destroy target artifact or creature an opponent controls. If you want to keep it at this power level, making it a 7 casting cost with kind of a limited way of getting it out cheaper, it should have said exile. Wizards, if you want these things to be used, you should have said exile. And you should have given this guy Death Touch. You should have stepped it up a little bit, okay? Because it still is not powerful enough to make me want to drive in and use this card. I just look at it and say, hey, the artwork got a little better. It has a couple of cool kind of features, but I'm not going to build around this because somebody's just going to exile it from the battlefield. It's got to have a reason to be there. But now, let's take a look at the last one, okay? And this one is by far my favorite. Number 1, the artwork looks epic to me, okay? This seems a lot scarier. And of course, this is the one that Gandalf fights. This is the Balrog of Moria, okay? An 8/8 for 7. Now, 1 red, 2 black, 4 generic. It has trample and haste. It should. Perfect. When the Balrog of Moria dies, you may exile it. When you do, for each opponent, exile up to 1 target creature that player controls. You notice the exile is on this guy? The exile is here on the last card. And of course it says each opponent, which means this card has been engineered and is designed for commander. It has cycling, which is interesting because you can't stop cycling. It's kind of nice to have this card be able to be drawn. It says, when you cycle a Balrog of Moria, create 2 treasure tokens, which means those things can't be countered either. That's an interesting little aside. Some players may try using it just for its cycling ability. But really, even a card at that power level, I would have made it cost at least 1 less. I would make it have the 2 black, the 1 red, and 3 generic. Because you want cards like this to be played. You want them to be utilized and enjoyed by players. But you also want to have value for those cards in the future. Not every card has to have a high IP value, but Wizards should be looking at the property they have access to and building on that value based on the cards you have. Like, if they had given Drist, instead of making him cost 5 and give him the double strike, if they had made him only cost 4 and given him triple strike, some weird way of doing a little mechanic just for him, as an iconic piece of Dungeons & Dragons history from Forgotten Realms, he deserved more attention, in my personal opinion. Not everyone has to agree with me, but there's got to be cards out there that each of us feel has that special little place. They didn't give us an Artemis Centauri. They didn't give us Regis, right? I thought guys like Wolfgar weren't tough enough. Brunar Battleheimer, although he's unique, he doesn't have enough going for him to make you really want to play him. Plus, he's an uncommon. Those kind of characters needed to all be legendary. They all needed to be mythic. And they needed to have more attention. Guys like Gandalf, Sauron, Saruman. When you look at Lord of the Rings, if they had stepped up those characters and made them all just tweaked them a little bit more to make them want to be played in multiple decks, not just Lord of the Rings, but for future decks, as well as things like Modern Commander, any format you can think of, they should have paid a little more attention to detail. And even if that card is only going to fit in 1 or 2 of those formats, you want it to go there. You don't want it to be an afterthought. You want people to seek that card out. That means you're going to have more people buying boxes and trying to open them. You could make the card a little bit harder to get which adds to the value. And of course, they do this with certain cards like the Great Henge as an engineered card that people want to get their hands on. But they're not doing it with a lot of this IP that they have access to. They're missing out on moments where they could generate success and future gains in the future, for the future welfare of the company and growth of the company, without having to really do a lot to make them a little bit more playable. Giving these kind of amazing creatures and iconic characters from the game a little bit more attention to detail, looking a little more in how it could meld better with Magic the Gathering, I think would be a better idea than what they did, at least to this point. Some of the characters do fit very well, others do not. When I think of Gandalf the Grey as a neutral party, I'd almost say he should have been an artifact, like a colorless thing. Because he's not good, he's not evil, you know what I mean? Like they didn't really go that way. Where somebody like Radagast or something, of course, would be, you know, a green and red kind of thing, right? I just think in some of these cases, if they tweaked the mechanics a little bit more, like Radagast should have been bringing us some squirrels, because that would fit with squirrel decks. I just think it should have happened, right? There's things they could have done to tweak it for people and generate them successful revenue for the future of the game. And it's something that Wizards of the Coast has not focused on enough to this point. They focused on things like, oh, I want to make money, we'll give serialized cards, which is great. There are players who want to collect that and get into it. There's no doubt about it. But who's going to want to buy these products in the future? Who's going to go after that card? Yes, you can go on to the next greatest thing, Wizards. You can build the next card, the next set. But if you want some of these cards to have longevity, all you have to do is tweak them a little bit, make them desirable. You can reskin them later if you don't have access to the IP for Lord of the Rings. You can reskin them as your own individual cards because you control the actual card makeup. And then you'd have a card worth 30, 40, 50 bucks that you could reprint in later sets. But if you do this each and every set to 4, 5, 10, 15 cards, make them a little bit harder. Make them a little bit more difficult, but a little bit more unique in their playability factor. There's nothing wrong with having a 1/1 flash. Okay, a 1/1 flash guy that can't be blocked for a turn. That's great. We've seen that kind of stuff before, right? But you got to tweak it a little bit and do something else. When it comes into play, I don't know, he does some crazy, a little fun ability. And you can make it a mythic. I'm not saying make it uncommon where it's going to be everywhere. You got to make some of these cards feel a little bit more special again and make players want to seek them out. You know, you could have a Regis the Halfling that was like 1 to get out. He has haste. He's unblockable the first turn. That'd be cool. It'd be great. Yes, it's probably going to be abused, but that's why you have bannings later to deal with it if it gets out of hand. Okay, I understand that some of these cards, the ideas I'm giving you, would be get banned right away because, oh, it's an unblockable thing. He's going to kill him on turn 1 with this special, unique twist and tap and do this with an equipment. Nah, they die. I get it. I'm just throwing out ideas at the top of my head as I'm talking to you guys because if they paid more attention, lowered a little bit of the casting cost, tweaked the power level here, they could guarantee a greater longevity of life for the cards that we're playing with. And then if they add that in with proper card quality control, make them of a firmer cardboard again so they don't, fold up like foils, cut foil production down in half, give us something worth buying is what I'm trying to get to here. So you can get more boxes opened on the front line, but then they can help their back end with things like secret layers and reprints down the road. And space the reprints out more so they don't happen every 5 seconds. Just thoughts and feelings in my head when I look at that Balrog. I think if they tweaked a little bit more, it would actually see some playability. It would actually see play for years to come. And I don't think that, Radico's color there is great, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think people are going to try it out once or twice, and the card's going to get rotated out. It's only a $2 card. A card like that should be 50 bucks in my mind, okay? Thanks a lot for hanging out. Can't wait to see what you guys think. What would you do to improve it? How would you make things better? And do you think Wizards is maximizing everything they need to do? Because I bet you don't. Have a great day, guys. Thanks for hanging out. If you enjoyed today's content, please don't forget to thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and help me get closer to that 20,000 subscriber party we're going to have. It's going to be epic. Thanks again, guys. Hey guys, a big shout out and thank you to the fantastic patrons of the channel. With their continued support, daily uploads like this are made possible. Thanks again to everyone who chooses to support this channel. It's amazing to have so many people here. Patrons rock. Thanks again, everyone. You know what gets me? Take a look at the Balrog here. 8/8, right? 7 casting cost. Trample, haste, cycling, kind of a cool power. Definitely designed for Commander in mind. I look at that card, and of course, your mind can't help but start comparing it to creatures that already exist. Force of Nature. Crawworm? Scaled worm? Like, it needs more, doesn't it? I love the card. I'm going to try to play with it. But it's a $2 card. It doesn't have a lot of value or driving things into it. So in 2 years or 3 years, who's going to be playing with that? Who's going to use it other than a fan who's trying to do something janky with it? If they had lowered the casting cost by 1, if they'd given that thing Death Touch or Lure, everything must block it. Remember they said, fly you fools and run, right? Because fighting it would be futile. So it should have Death Touch. It should have a Lure attachment. All creatures able to block the Balrog of Moria must do so. Something like that. To really make you want to have that card, because we all know big creatures in Commander just get squashed. There's so much removal everywhere nowadays. Or maybe they've given it Ward 10, like a Tarsarak, yeah? Something to spike this card to make you want to play with it. They made a mistake. It should have been Mythic too. I look at that stuff and I just go, you missed out an opportunity to make some money. That seems futile to me. Borg style. Anyway, guys, you made it till the end. Put Balrog in the comments section. Show the love, because that's the best we're going to get right now, and I'm okay with that. It's not a bad card. It's just not going to be a memorable card in the long term of the game, and that's just the way I see it. Wizards is missing a lot right now. Thanks a lot, guys, for hanging out. Looking forward to talking about this in the comments section. Hope you guys are having an awesome day. It was Mini Mox's birthday. I'm filming this during his birthday. He said it was okay. And you know what? He had a great time. I know some of you guys sent happy birthdays today. That was so awesome of you. He really appreciates it. Thanks, everyone. I let him read them, so it was awesome. And I know some of you guys are sending little knickknacks and gifts. It's awesome. I will give them to him as soon as he can. And when it's all kind of said and done, I may have him film a little voiceover somewhere, okay? He's got to show his appreciation, show respect for the people who are treating you nicely. Thanks again, guys. Have an awesome day today. You guys rock. You know you rock. Balrog. Could have been so much better.